As I looked around the nearly empty room, I asked, "Are you ready to leave yet?" My companions sighed. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied with a hint of relief in their voice. "Honestly, I won't miss seeing you around," they added. And changing the locks like I'd try to break in, that was a bit much. I had always wondered why Larry took such extreme precautions, but now it seemed pointless to ask. When I first met him, Larry was a quiet man, always worried about what others thought of him. After we got married, he became what some might call a henpecked husband. A week after I moved into my new home, Larry showed up, looking desperate. "It's me. Open up," he begged. I pretended I didn't recognize him and answered the door with a confused look.
"I'm Lauren," I said.
"I'm 37 and work part-time, 5 days a week." Larry didn't get the hint. It's been 4 years since Larry and I got married. We don't have kids, but I still believe we can find happiness together. In the early days of our marriage, we would stay up late talking about our dreams. Both of us were inexperienced when it came to love, but I thought we genuinely enjoyed being together. "Let's be that couple that grows old together," I suggested one night. "Yeah, I like that idea," he said. "Maybe 4 kids? A boy and a girl?" "That's exactly what I was thinking," I agreed. Those light-hearted conversations were a joy to me, someone who never thought much about love or marriage. Meeting Larry had been a surprise. We met at a party I attended reluctantly. He seemed just as uninterested in being there, and we bonded over our shared lack of enthusiasm. That night, we started a friendship. Larry was serious and a little reserved, but he was always kind to me. I found that charming. Then, out of nowhere, he proposed. "Lauren, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating," I replied, shocked. Larry didn't waver. His confidence caught me off guard, but it didn't scare me away. Instead, it made me think about a life with him. "If you're okay with me, then yes," I said. His happiness was clear. In that moment, I realized why life sometimes throws unexpected surprises our way. I truly believed that marrying Larry would bring us a happy future. We rushed into marriage, tying the knot just 3 months after we first met. Since we were both inexperienced with love, our journey was a bit clumsy, but that made it feel like an adventure. However, about a month after moving in together, I started noticing a big difference between what I expected and the reality of our marriage. One day, Larry approached me with a serious expression, more serious than usual. "Lauren, there's something I need to talk about," he said in a solemn tone. I was caught off guard when he asked me to quit my job and become a homemaker. This request came out of nowhere. Larry had never shown any issues with me working before, and this marked the start of a strange change in his behavior. "Why are you asking me this?" I asked, confused. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he admitted. "Did someone put this idea in your head?" I questioned, trying to understand where this was coming from. "No, but at my company, all the other men's wives stay home." "That's just how it is," he explained. "From the beginning of our marriage, I had been clear about my plans to keep working. It was important for saving money and building the life we wanted." Larry's sudden demand left me baffled. "We agreed that I would keep working after we got married, didn't we?" I reminded him. "I know," he said, "but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings." It seemed like he cared more about meeting social expectations than about what made us happy as a couple. "Why don't we just pretend I've quit?" "Nobody has to know," I suggested, unwilling to give up my job. But Larry grew more anxious about what others thought of him. "If things don't change, I'll be mocked by my coworkers and bosses. I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please, just do what I'm asking," he insisted, refusing to hear my point of view. "I can't make such a big decision right now. I need time to think," I said, trying to buy myself some time. "Okay," he replied, "but please decide soon." His voice was firm and urgent. I knew I couldn't let this issue drag on for too long. I feared what might happen if I didn't make a choice quickly. Seeking advice, I turned to my boss, Cheryl. She had worked as an administrative assistant since high school and had gone through a similar situation with her controlling ex-husband. Eventually, her marriage ended in divorce, and now she was a strong, independent single mother, someone I deeply admired. That must have been tough, I said as I thought about her story. The idea of divorce crossed my mind, and I reflected on her courage and resilience. As Larry and I navigated the early days of our marriage, we found ourselves at a difficult crossroads. It's tricky, since we're still newlyweds, I thought, considering the weight of his request. The idea of quitting my job felt like giving up a piece of myself, but I couldn't ignore the strain this issue was putting on our relationship. I hadn't fully figured things out, but I knew leaving my job would make it hard to find a similar position later. I decided to share my concerns with Isabella, my boss and mentor. I'm not planning to quit right away, I explained. I'm trying to find a way to keep working, maybe by staying part-time for now. If I switch to full-time, it might draw too much attention. That's a smart approach, Isabella said, encouraging my decision to negotiate with Larry. If he still doesn't agree, we could officially reduce your hours to part-time. That might work better. That sounds like a solid plan. Thank you for supporting me, I replied, feeling grateful. Isabella's reassurance felt like a lifeline during the chaos of my marital struggles. Our conversation deepened, and Isabella revealed that her ex-husband had also changed drastically after they got married. Her story felt unsettlingly similar to mine. I began to see how some men could become almost unrecognizable after marriage, which made me question if Larry had misled me before we tied the knot. Despite countless talks, Larry and I reached a deadlock. Isn't it a wife's role to support her husband and take care of the household after marriage, he argued, clinging to old-fashioned ideas. What era are you living in? These days, both spouses usually work, I countered, shocked by his outdated views. That might be true for others, but we're different. You understand that, don't you? He said, trying to convince me. I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree with it, I said firmly, asking him to see things from my perspective. But Larry didn't stop. Every day, he pressured me to quit my job. Finally, after speaking with Isabella again, I decided to officially resign. However, I secretly continued working part-time, 5 days a week. Isabella understood my situation and agreed to reduce my hours to help me manage things. I've resigned from my job at the company, just like you wanted, I told Larry, keeping up the act. Really? Thank you. Now I can feel more secure at work, he said, relieved and unaware of the truth. By this point, it was clear Larry cared most about how others saw him. His sudden change in behavior left me confused and disappointed. I chose to keep deceiving him, hoping it would protect both my independence and our marriage. But over time, I realized my hopes for a new beginning were misplaced. Even after my so-called resignation, Larry continued to dominate our relationship and let his frustrations out on me. One day, he suddenly announced a junior colleague is coming over today. I need you to host.
What?
I didn't know about this, I said, startled. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple. Please have everything ready before they arrive, he added, brushing off my surprise. It felt like another layer of control in a relationship that was growing harder to endure. Before I could say another word, Larry hung up. Determined to meet his expectations, I prepared drinks and snacks for the guests. When Larry arrived, however, he wasn't pleased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He scolded. You said to keep it simple, and that's exactly what I did, I replied, confused by his reaction. This looks so basic. It reflects poorly on me. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly, he added. What does that even mean? I did my best. Is there something wrong with what I prepared? I asked, genuinely puzzled. No, not really, he muttered, his face unreadable, a far cry from the man I once knew. From that day on, Larry began hosting guests almost every week. While he enjoyed these gatherings, he expected me to always be ready to entertain, as if he wanted to show off how great his life was. Larry, having people over every week feels like too much, I said one day. It's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife, Lauren, he responded firmly. But keeping up this lifestyle wasn't just exhausting, it was expensive. How am I supposed to manage everything? I asked, frustrated. Stop complaining, he snapped, brushing off my concerns and avoiding any real answers. Every morning, I woke up early to prepare meals, make sandwiches for his lunch, and have his suit ready for the day. On days I worked part-time, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., I barely had time to rest. Despite the exhaustion, my job felt like my only escape. "Lauren, you seem tired lately. Are you okay?" my coworker Evelyn asked one day, noticing how worn out I looked. "Yeah, a bit," I admitted, grateful someone cared. "Let me know if there's anything I can do." "I'm here for you," she offered warmly. "Thank you, Evelyn. You've been such a great support," I replied, appreciating her kindness. Evelyn knew about my secret part-time job and had helped me keep it hidden from Larry. "I appreciate everything you've done for me," I told her one day. "Paul mentioned it, but I never thought Larry would act this way," she confessed. "Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen. We barely even have meaningful conversations anymore," I sighed, feeling overwhelmed.
"I'm sorry, Lauren."
"But don't be too hard on yourself. You're doing so much, managing work and everything at home." "That's impressive," Evelyn reassured me. Her words meant a lot. Living with her support made my struggles more bearable, a stark contrast to the stress I faced at home. But Larry seemed uncomfortable with how close Evelyn and I had become. Then one day, he made a shocking decision. "Where's Evelyn? What happened to her?" I asked, noticing her absence. "She's gone," he replied flatly. "What do you mean, gone?" I questioned, my heart sinking at his sudden and cryptic words. I asked, feeling more confused. "What do you mean she's gone?" "Mom's getting older, and I thought it would be better for her to be in a facility," Larry replied casually. "You actually put her in a home?" My voice cracked, barely hiding my disbelief. "Yeah, just got her settled into the new place. Now I have the house to myself," he said, as though he had just completed an ordinary task. I was at my parents' house when this happened, and I couldn't believe he had made such a big decision on his own. His mother was older, sure, but she wasn't at the point of needing full-time care. It became obvious that he had sent Evelyn away just to have the house to himself. When I visited Evelyn at the facility, she looked surprised but resigned. "I'm sorry it came to this," I apologized, feeling guilty. "It's not your fault," Evelyn reassured me. "I never thought he'd go this far. I'm just worried about what he might do if I resist. I'll miss you, but I'll be okay. If you need anything, you can always visit me here," she added, trying to comfort me. "Thank you," I replied, the weight of the situation sinking in. Afterward, Larry and I moved into his parents' home. Despite managing the household carefully and doing everything I could to keep things in order, Larry never acknowledged my efforts or showed any appreciation. The idea of having children, a topic we had once eagerly discussed, now seemed like a distant dream. Larry began spending more time away from home and ignoring me. On top of that, he started imposing strange rules. For example, I had to stay awake until he returned home, no matter how late it was. If I woke up later than him in the morning, he would get angry. "What time will you be home tonight?" I asked one evening. "I'm not sure. Just stay up until I get back, okay?" he instructed, as if it were normal. One day, after a similar conversation, Larry came home late. As I took his suit to hang it up, I noticed something odd. There was a sweet, feminine scent on his clothes, a perfume I didn't recognize since I didn't wear any. It was clear evidence of an affair. Every time he came home late, I would catch the same scent. That day, he suggested something unusual. "Why don't you go to bed early tonight?" His suggestion raised my suspicions even more. Quietly, I went to the living room and overheard a conversation. "Oh, she's clueless. When are you going to leave her?" a woman's voice asked. "I'll kick her out soon enough," Larry's voice responded, unmistakable and clear. Their voices carried easily, especially the woman's, which was loud and confident. From their conversation, it was clear this relationship had been going on for a while. The perfume incident hadn't shocked me, but overhearing their words left me feeling disgusted. Larry was still my husband, yet his treatment of me was harsh and unchanged. Despite all my hopes for things to get better, nothing had improved. As we approached the 3rd anniversary of our marriage, Larry surprised me yet again with something I never saw coming. I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready, Larry announced abruptly. That's very short notice, I replied, suspicious of the sudden timing. I'll be away for about 5 days. Please make sure my clothes are ready, he added. His words didn't sit right with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that this so-called business trip was just an excuse to spend time with his mistress. I remembered a warning from a colleague's wife at a company gathering. Be cautious if he suddenly mentions a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those. Her words echoed in my mind as I pieced things together. My suspicions had been confirmed earlier when I accidentally found a chat on his phone, which he'd left in the living room. The messages revealed he had taken paid leave for this trip. That discovery was a turning point for me. I knew our marriage was falling apart. Armed with proof of his affair, I decided to confront him with divorce papers when he returned. But Larry acted first. Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon, he said coldly as he walked through the door. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? I asked, stunned by his bluntness. I need you out of the house before I get back, he demanded. You can't just spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately, I countered, trying to make sense of his behavior. Fine, but start packing. I'll wait a bit, he said dismissively. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I once thought was gentle and overly concerned had become cold and domineering. This was the final straw. The future I had envisioned with him felt like a distant memory. Living with someone like this, I realized there was no bright future ahead. As I packed my things, he added almost casually, Oh, I'm changing the locks too. Got it, I replied quietly, my heart sinking. The thought of not having to see your face again is a relief, he said as his parting words after nearly 4 years of marriage. Convinced our relationship was beyond saving, I left the house that same day. Soon after, I instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. But Larry didn't stop there. Boldly, he began posting pictures with his mistress on social media, openly flaunting their relationship. It was shocking how reckless he was, not realizing he was providing even more evidence of his affair. Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we had once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I looked back at everything that had happened. I no longer felt sadness, only relief that I was finally free from the weight of our broken marriage. I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had always dreamed of living. The apartment was spacious, perfect for one person, and felt wonderfully freeing without Larry around. About a month after settling in, I was startled one morning by the sound of the doorbell. Looking through the monitor, I was shocked to see Larry standing outside. Hey, it's me, Larry. Open up, Lauren, he called out, his tone confident and demanding. His sudden appearance and entitled attitude left me speechless. Deciding to act like I didn't know him, I spoke through the intercom. Who are you? I'm sorry, but I don't know you, I said calmly. Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face, he exclaimed, clearly frustrated. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, I replied, watching as his desperation grew. His face looked nothing like the timid man I once knew. Please, just listen to me. I've been deceived, and I need Lauren's help, he pleaded. I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to help you. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police, I said firmly, keeping up my act. Larry seemed to think I would always be there to solve his problems, but I was no longer that person. He refused to give up, though, and his tone turned desperate. You can't just leave me to deal with this. You don't have to be so tough on me, he whimpered. And by the way, you can't stay at your parents' house anymore, he added suddenly. What do you mean? Do you even know whose name the house is under now? I asked, surprised. No, but it's not mine anymore, he said hesitantly. That's right. It used to belong to Evelyn. Now it's in my name, I explained, revealing the significant change he didn't know about. When Larry had demanded I leave, I confided in Evelyn. She had been visibly upset and disappointed by his actions. I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us, Evelyn had told me during one of our talks. Evelyn, you're divorcing Larry, aren't you? She had asked gently. Yes, it's for the best, I confirmed. In that case, she had begun, offering her full support for my decision. Standing at my door that morning, Larry still believed he had power over me. But I had moved on. I wasn't the same person who tolerated his behavior. I shut off the intercom, leaving him outside to deal with the mess he created. I'll transfer the house to you, Evelyn said, surprising both me and, I assumed, Larry as well. Why would she do that? Larry would have been baffled by such a decision, unaware of the support Evelyn was offering me after everything he'd put me through. What Larry didn't know was that, during all this chaos, he had been living with his mistress. That's the reality. Understand the situation and leave, I told him firmly, shutting down any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. I didn't expect to see him again, but I made it clear that if he tried to contact me, I wouldn't hesitate to involve the police. With that warning, he finally left. The divorce moved forward as planned, and I received the settlement we had agreed upon. Larry's choices had backfired. His mistress had manipulated him financially and abandoned him once his money ran out. The divorce settlement totaled about $500,000, leaving Larry in an even worse position. But I wasn't going to stop there. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure that any financial claims against him were fully pursued. I also pushed for an additional $25,000 as part of the settlement, which looked promising. Meanwhile, the house ownership was officially transferred to me. Larry initially resisted moving out, but legal action forced him to comply. He had no choice but to leave. As for his current situation, I have no idea, and I have no interest in finding out. At some point, Larry's company discovered the photos he had posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to face the embarrassment or maintain the facade of his once lavish lifestyle, he chose to resign from his job. It seemed like an inevitable outcome, given his true nature. If I were to reflect on everything that happened, I'd say this. I don't dwell on it. Yes, I'm divorced now, but I see it as a valuable lesson and an opportunity to move forward with a positive outlook. My bond with Evelyn remains strong, and I am focused on building my career and embracing life as an independent, single woman. I'm looking forward to enjoying the freedom and opportunities that this new chapter offers.